Welcome back to OpenLine, talking with Tim Takis, elder law attorney, about whatever questions you may have as far as paying for the nursing home, creating a trust, basically caring for an elderly relative, perhaps yourself, planning for that inevitability. And we have several calls. So let's just go back to the phones. Let's go to Mary. Hello, Mary.
Hello there. I have about 3 questions. My sister died, and I'm getting about $60,000 from her estate. And will I have to pay income tax on that?
No, only unless unless you're inheriting an IRA or another like retirement plan like that.
Well, now she had some stock.
Right.
Will I have to pay income tax on that?
No, no. That's why.
That's good news.
Yeah, every once in a while that question comes up, and people do inherit. If you have an IRA and somebody inherits that, then that's money that hasn't been taxed yet, and eventually it's going to get taxed. But that's the only reason why you would have to pay income tax, on an inheritance is that if the decedent had to pay income tax when they got it, then she would have to pay income tax, when she gets it.
And you wouldn't even have to pay that necessarily right at the time.
No, usually what happens if it's set up the right way, it comes to you as an inherited IRA, and then you have to pay, you have to take distributions out of it based upon your life expectancy.
So there's really not a situation, it doesn't sound like, where you're going to have some tax bill coming to you with a $60,000.
Now maybe there's some sort of esoteric thing, but where income tax would have been owed by the decedent, and then so the income tax liability follows that asset, but that's typically not what that doesn't happen very often.
Now, did you say you had a couple other quick questions?
Well, no, that answered it all.
Really?
Good, Mary, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, let's go to Linda. Hello, Linda.
Hi, how are you tonight?
Great.
I've got a few questions for you. My parents, about 3 years ago, set up a family trust in another state. And the reason they did this was to simplify things when the last of them passed away. My dad passed away last year, and we found out that the family trust is under his Social Security number.
Okay.
Should a new EIN number be requested for this family trust? They currently live in Tennessee, or she currently lives in Tennessee.
So was your mom, did she also create the trust?
She and my dad both created the trust.
Okay.
The survivor.
Yeah. And the short answer to that question is that if the trust is a revocable trust in the name of your mother, then it should be set up under her Social Security number.
Well, it was set up under his because he was alive when it was, of course, when it was set up.
Sure.
But
right.
Everything that is in the trust, which is part of the problem, under my dad's social.
Yeah. And I understand where she's coming from, and I know that she's got, I guess, another couple questions. But when you set up it sounds like it was a revocable trust that was in her father's name. That it's kind of like if you open up a bank account, with you and your wife. There's usually 2 Social Security numbers on it. Right. But let's say that that Elmer, Daddy, owned. He and Irene set up a family trust, a revocable trust, meaning it's, they can be revoked at any time. But let's say that it was invested under his name only as the trustee. Then what would happen then is that it would be set up, they would use his Social Security number. Right. Because he would be the individual trustee, and since it's revocable, they don't need a tax ID number.
So it's not a problem.
It should not be a problem, and that's why I'm saying is that, the question I would look at would be is that if it's still a revocable trust, even though that her father died, then it would not be a tax ID number. It would be maybe probably her mother's Social Security number, is what it should be transferred to.
All right. Well, do you have a couple other quick questions, Linda? No. Oh, sorry. Sorry, go right ahead.
We got you.
Okay.
We got you back.
Okay, terrific. And that is, in the state of Tennessee, I understand that the probate process is very simple
Yeah.
and very inexpensive. In going through my father's affairs after he passed away, we discovered that probably about 50% of their assets, their liquid assets, were never put in the
It's in
trust.
Yeah.
So should I take the time to put them in the trust, or should those things just go through probate? I will be the one handling their affairs.
Well, the problem that Linda has there, is that if the assets are just in her father's name, and there's no payable on death on those accounts, or they were not jointly held with, her mother, then those assets are just sitting out there, in Daddy's name. And if she goes to the bank and says, "Well, I want to put those in, I want to put those into, the revocable trust or the trust," the bank's going to go, "Well, where's your dad? He's the only one that can do that."
Well, what if she says he's dead and here's a death certificate?
Right, and they're going to say is that, well, it sounds like you may have to go to probate because we can't just give you the assets because the account holder is dead. And there's no joint account holder, and there's no payable on death on that account.
So that would have to go through probate.
So that would likely go through probate. Right. And unfortunately, what Linda is experiencing is that we see this a lot where people, they do estate planning by they set up a revocable living trust, and we've heard that before. I know we've talked about the revocable trust before to avoid probate. And because that's the mantra out there is that, to all the old people, you see the ads in the newspaper. Well, you need to set up, probate is horrible, you need to avoid it, you need to set up a trust. And so the lawyer gives you, and sometimes it's not even a lawyer, but a lawyer might be the supervising lawyer. They give you all of these pre-printed documents, and they fill in your names on it in an overstuffed fake leather binder, and say, "Here's your trust," and they don't do what's called funding of the trust.
Right.
In other words, funding to us as lawyers means, making sure the title of the assets go from the individual into the name of the trustee, and that's exactly what it sounds like Linda's experiencing. And so unfortunately what could happen is that not only did her parents pay for a revocable trust, they may also have to pay for probate.
Yeah.
Because that's why they had set up the revocable trust in the first place, so they could avoid that.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Linda. Good question. Let's go to Jimmy. Hello, Jimmy. Jimmy, are you there? Jimmy? All right, we're going to come back to you, Jimmy. Promise. Let's go to Greg. Hello, Greg.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Oh,
Good. I'm glad you're there. Go right ahead.
Yes, well, I'm calling in regards to my mother. She has been living independently. She was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and a recent visit to a physician, he stated that it wouldn't be safe for her to live on her own anymore. And about a month ago, I also discovered I have a durable power of attorney with her, and we have all the proper documents, and she's unable to take care of her financial situation. So essentially, I'm doing this.
Right. You're taking over then, right?
That's the idea.
Right.
But I've also discovered her financial affairs are not very well taken care of. I'm doing the best I can. We're covering her bills, but one of the options we're looking at is she likely will have to sell her house. She lives in a condo, and she'll likely be needing to go into assisted living of some sort. And she has Social Security, and she also has a government pension, and at least it looks like she has a fairly decent income, but compared to the problems that looks like we're going to be facing the next few months, I'm not sure we're up to the task.
So what is your question?
Good. Yeah, the question is, what would be the next step for someone who is no longer able to, who's in a state of incapacity, who, due to Alzheimer's, and is not able to live on their own,
Kind of what's the next step?
Right.
Greg, I'm sorry you're going through all that. All right, what do you have to say?
Well, it sounds like he's the first and most important thing that he has done is what?
He's taking care of his mom. I mean, he's there and he's present.
And making sure that her needs are being met.
Right. He's present. He's trying to do something.
Exactly. So the first thing that, so he's kind of wandered into the situation regrettably, or maybe not so wandered, but the point is that he wants to take care of his mother's financial affairs, and as I guess he's finding out is that, like a lot of our older clients, that, as they became impaired, they were not able, that it doesn't manifest itself right away, that only they sort of hide it.
Right.
And what he's finding out is that he's got some paperwork to do and to get all of that straightened out. So
this situation is not uncommon.
Not uncommon. And so the first thing, or one of the first things that he wants to do, is make sure that, like he's already doing, is okay, what kind of where are her finances? All right, if he knows where the banks are or whatever it is present himself at the banks or whatever and say, okay, I'm my mother's power of attorney, here's the document. If he needs a letter or something that says, from the doctor that says she needs help with her financial affairs, then he has all the authority that he needs, to sort of take charge. So that's one of the first things that he wants to do. And he wants to do the same sort of thing with the health care, with her mom's primary care physician. Make sure that if he doesn't already have, started a relationship with them, is saying is that, okay, I'm my mother's health care power of attorney. And make sure that he steps in, because he's going to be now the person that they're going to be working with to figure out, okay, what's best for his mother. And then of course the third thing he's got to start thinking about is that where's she going to live? And what kind of care is she going to need? Is she going to be able to, is that going to be at home? Is it going to be somewhere else? Then he has to start thinking about, okay, where is that going to be? Where she's going to live. And then that sort of then circles back around to is how is that going to be paid for? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then what can we expect to happen as she goes forward in her illness? And of course that's the kind of work that we do is that our is working with our clients and our families. The earlier we can get with them is the better off we can give them guidance through that process.
Well, Greg,
that's the journey that he's going to be taking with his mom.
And he's not alone,
right.
But it's good that he's there to do what he can for his mom. Mm-hmm. All right, let's go back to Jimmy. Hello, Jimmy.
Hello.
Hi, go right ahead.
I'm hoping it's a fairly quick question, but I've always wondered about. Me and my mom both own a house together, and let's say whether it's me or her, especially her, say she goes into a nursing home, do I have to worry about them taking the home we own together?
Okay.
Well, I guess hopefully Jimmy was watching before where we said that, nobody takes the house, but let's say that his mother goes into the nursing home and she can keep the house. Even though it's held jointly by him and his mom, and she can keep the house. It's just that when she passes away, then there's a possibility that the state has a right to recoup. Since he's not a spouse, that protection doesn't. He doesn't have that protection.
It's only the spouse. They won't come back and say.
Well, there's some exceptions there. There's spouse, survived by a disabled child, survived by a caregiver child, and there's some exceptions. Sometimes those exceptions are fairly narrow.
Right.
But of course I'm wondering, like often is that why whose house is it? Was it his mom's? Did she add his name to it? When was that done? Because if it was done within the past 5 years, the state Medicaid program would say that might be a transfer of assets.
Right.
Was it his house? Did he put his mom's name on it? Did they buy the house together? I mean, a lot of those questions, those are the kind of facts that we want to talk about or want to see. Was he a caregiver for his mother? That kept her out of the nursing home, because under those circumstances, sometimes the state will say that his mom can transfer her interest in the house to him.
There's some protections there.
Yeah, so without a penalty. So there are a lot of things that come up, And of course, what I get thinking about is, and this is his my long answer to his short question. You know, and I'm sorry, but because I know we have some other callers, but we'll get to them. But
yeah.
You know, the idea here is that what I think about is, what if Jimmy dies? What are we going to do with the house? You know, is it going to be now vested in his mother? You know, or are they holding the house as tenants, what's called tenants in common, or are they joint tenants? You know, all those questions come into play. You know, which is often the reason why I tell people is, don't mix your money up with your parents.
Right.
And parents, don't mix your money up with your kids, because bad things happen to kids and bad things happen to parents. You know, and that can affect, you know, what happens to them. You know, I've been on this show where we've talked about that, and I remember a lady called in and said, well, that was good advice, Tim, because I wish I'd have known, because I didn't know her daughter was on this lady's account. You know, the daughter's dentist had garnished that bank account. $1,200 was gone, and it was mom's money, but she put her daughter on that account.
Right, and at that point, it's free game.
As far as they're concerned, that money, she's now that daughter is now the co-owner of that account.
All right, we have to take a break. But if you're on the line, hold on.
Yeah.
Joe, TC, others, hold on if you want to call.
Speed round, right?
Yeah, we'll just kind of go through them pretty quickly. Hold on, we'll take a break. Be back right after this.